Welcome back, guys, to Chat with BR Coaches. Today we are talking about the art of running together with head coach Joao, coach Melina. This is our third episode and of the second season.
Amazing.
3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Chat with BR Coaches. As you know, we are always busy in trying to perfect the art of coaching. And this is what we're gonna do today. We're gonna talk about the art of running. But first of all, just a little bit of introduction. We have so many news, so you need to stay tuned because we are launching with the Art Performance Studios a running club and a running plan. So stay tuned because we're gonna talk about things that you're gonna see in the future very soon. As we know, humans, as soon as they start walking, the first thing that they perfect is running. Okay, now probably Chris McDougall would say we are walkers much more than runners, but you know, in the end, it's almost the same. You know, if you walk fast, then you approach it, and we get the idea sometimes that the athletes they feel like. They don't need to perfect this running because it's in their nature, it's in our nature. But in reality, we see as coaches that even if they want to perfect swim and cycling, it's the run that they need to focus because it's the last part of a full distance or half distance. So we're gonna talk with the head coach Joao and coach Melina about the art of running. Why do you think that athletes they don't have this feeling that they need to improve and perfect their run?
Hello guys, it's good to be back here. Pleasure to one more time try to share our ideas, our knowledge about the triathlon and the sports that we coach. I think running. I believe that running is a human skill. You know, every time that you have a situation that you need to, you have to or achieve something or catch something or run away from something, you know, it's a natural movement that everyone has. And it was a skill that we developed with the ability to hunt, to try when, you know, I'm talking about when we didn't have all the facilities that we have now these days, right? So I'm talking about when we first started to move, and was a way that the muscles they develop by itself, and it's a very natural process, and you can see the kids they run so simple, so natural, without thinking, and looks so easy until the point that they become adults and teenagers, and then the whole body mechanics change because then we move less, and that's where the adults they have big issues because their posterior chain switched off, hamstrings, glutes, lower back stability, core stability. That's where they lose that feeling of running naturally, but in the back of their head what happened is because when we are kids, we always play and we always run and we feel so natural. So when we go to practice our sports, we still have that memory of us running as kids. And it looks that nobody should learn again how to run. But the problem is all those years of sitting down, office, school, they change the entire body mechanics. Shoes.
Yeah. Right. It looks like, the comparison between reality and how you feel in this case.
Yeah.
So,
the thing
question
is,
again for you. Yeah.
Sorry to butt in. The thing is, with swimming, obviously, you have the added complication of having to move through the water. And we see this a lot with beginner swimmers. They might be able to master the basic technique, but they can't master the breathing, and then their whole swimming falls apart. Whereas in running, you don't really have to worry about breathing. The cycling, you have the added, if you can say, complication. You have to balance on a bike. Whereas running is just put your shoes on and out you go through the door. So we always think of it as the simplest of the three.
So it's just few of the athletes that are joining, they share their intent to improve their run. And so what's the difference between the ones that don't want to improve and they need to, and the ones that they understand that they need to? What is the difference there?
I believe, as from my experience, there are some kind of athletes that they believe they are good runners, and then they have less patience, and maybe the mindset is, I don't need to work so much on my technique of running, so if I have this limited time, let me put into something that I'm not so good. So they go to swim and bike, let's say. Usually somebody that comes from a very strong running background has a very poor swim background, right? Usually. So and cycling as well. So if you have a strong cyclist moving to triathlon, they're gonna struggle on the swim. So what happened with these guys is there is a huge gap between the performance of the good sport, running, and the poor sport, swimming. They have to catch up so much on the swimming technique that they just leave the running technique out.
Even if they were good,
Yeah, and what they do is they work their fitness of running, but not the skill of running, right? So if they have some certain time per week to do running, and a certain time per week to do swimming, probably in their head make more sense to, and which somehow it's correct, right? So what they do is they put all the extra time into learn swimming and technique of swimming and master a little bit that area, and leave a little bit the running technique to perfect that movement out of the schedule. So they keep running harder, but not better. Let's say that's kind of the mindset of the good runners. I'm saying this way.
I think it's a fine balance across all sports, actually, to get them to understand that you need to have that technique, but you also need to have that fitness, and you can't really have one without the other, because if you just have really good technique but no fitness to carry it across, you might only be able to last 100 meters on the run with good form, and then your fitness will carry you on across that, and the same with swimming. I just think because swimming involves the water and the control of the breath, and that running doesn't have, we do tend to talk more, when we talk about technique, we tend to talk more about swimming. Whereas, again, like we said, running, people just think, oh, everybody can run, so off I go and run. Plus, there's also the big issue that we all have, like, and I'm sure we kind of do it to an extent as well, that, you know, like all these apps like Strava and all that stuff, and people don't want to run slow and do the drills. And
show quantity, not quality.
Yeah, and they, you know, they don't want to bring their average speed down of the session, so they just want to get faster, and they tend to forget that actually being more efficient is what's going to do it, and not just your fitness.
Yeah, that's why one reason I don't have Strava account anymore.
Okay.
I just removed my Strava
I've
account.
blocked everyone on that one.
You know?
But I think now we are breaking this urban myth where, you know, people say, okay, I'm gonna go for a run, and they just go for it. You know, it's not just enduring into a run; it's to endure in the proper way.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's take 30 seconds break, and then we come back on this topic.
Yeah. To take you to the next level, we have to know two basic metrics, which is where you are now, your base level, and where you are going, your final goal. For this reason, we create a system called BR stages. The BR stages consist in 4 levels. Number 1, fundamentals. Number 2, skills. Number 3, performance. And finally, specialization.
Back with Chat with BR Coaches. This is the third episode of season 2. Okay, new format, a little bit of video, and still we have our podcast. You can find it on Google. You can find it on Apple Podcaster. You can find it on Anchor. So we are publishing everywhere, and you can follow us as well on our blog on brperformancestudios.com/blog. We are back talking about the art of running, and the question is what the triathletes are missing now in run training, that it's related to triathlon, and it's related as well to their let's say their body awareness in running. What are they missing right now? I'd say most of them. Okay, let's say it's not it's generalized.
I think running is a very much of a challenge that the person has to get into, and then learn how to move naturally on that motion. Kind of the same as swimming and cycling, but specifically on running, you have those moments that you really feel you got it, and you move very natural, and it's very smooth, and it's very nice, and you feel amazed, and you want to do more and more and more. But talking about triathletes, we move in a different ways, different days, while a runner does every time the same exercise. So running 4, 5, 3 times a week, whatever. We're gonna be changing sports during the week. So we have, for example, a Monday run, the next day gonna be a cycling, which is gonna change your body mechanics already. So you're gonna engage different muscles. You're gonna have to go into a different position. And then the next day you go for swimming, which is gonna make you work different muscles. So the being more aware of how you run, it's gonna save you more energy in a long process. Because one thing is to work on your mechanics of running just purely to hit a certain number on your watch, pace or whatever, and the other thing is remove that pace from your head for a while, and then focus on how are you moving to achieve that number. It's a very hard task for triathletes and runners, because usually we tend to think that if we do something harder or longer, we're gonna get better.
It's the same thing when you ask athletes to do a session focusing on just heart rate and keeping it at a really low intensity. Even if it means they have to walk or jog to keep it down there, they tend to really struggle with that, because they feel I'm not working hard enough. It feels like it's just pointless training. So it's very similar. So the drills, or getting them to work on running form, ultimately will make them more efficient, so that hopefully they can hold a faster pace at a lower energy cost. But at the same time, getting them to understand that sometimes they can't get past the fact that I don't feel like I'm working hard. Mm-hmm. So is this actually training worth it?
And we give you some news. It doesn't happen from night to day. Okay,
Yeah, no,
it takes a long time to adapt and to be able to focus, to be body aware, because it's something that has been let's say numbed for some time. Mm-hmm. As you said before, this is a good example about the kids. That they school, they go, they run, and what we are doing in Europe, especially in Italy, just watch out, don't run. Now we are stopping already. Now people are forgetting that they had to run naturally, and now we need again to concentrate on the form, because we are doing the wrong movements, and all these defects, supination, overpronation, they come because we got used to not to do the natural things. So there might be limits, but still we lost it because it was done a choice, and it was done
it's kind of beaten out of us as we were growing up.
Yes. So running is it's the most natural movement from the 3 for the human beings, like for the three sports of triathlon specifically, because cycling you have a second element, which is a bike, which is not natural for us. You have to adapt to that bike, to that external factor. And then swimming, we are not on our human beings' natural environment, because we don't know how to breathe under the water. That's why breathing is the challenge for most of the people, because there is a moment that you need to move your head out of the water to catch air and then move back in, and that's where it becomes complicated. Running is the one that you just literally need your body and nothing else to move. But because our body mechanics been changing, and we miss so much of the natural skills when we move again out of our teenager and become adults, we are losing skills and losing body awareness. Mainly we disconnect from being a natural human being, and we become a society human being. So we adapt to whatever we have to do. And that moment, we are not so natural anymore in terms of movements, right? So most of the people, they're gonna feel much more comfortable seated on the bike and cycling than running, because they've been seated since they are 10 years old, adults. So if they sit down and they do something, it's very comfortable. They might have issues with the bike here and there, but it's very natural for somebody to be seated cycling. And then you tell them, okay, now I want you to put this power into a running. It gets very confused for them now at this moment, because they have the memory of when they were kids running with their friends, and then they start to move and you see the body mechanics totally off. There is a huge impact of the way they are moving or behaving with the way they should be activating their muscles. And it takes a mental process more than physical to learn again how to move. That's what people don't get.
But it's I think the first barrier, especially for people who haven't really done sport for a long time, is to actually be aware that that's an issue. It's one thing to say, oh, running feels a bit difficult or whatever, but they've got to be aware of the fact that actually this doesn't quite feel right. And then add obviously to the fact that running, you're carrying your own body weight. On cycling, the bike's carrying you. On swimming, the water's carrying you. So the heart rate's going to be a lot higher on the run anyway. Your heart rate's going to beat a bit faster. You might feel more out of breath. So all these things together will make running a lot harder for a lot of people to begin with.
So there is a barrier already in running. It's okay. So there is a barrier already in running itself for this tradition that we have created of humans now inserted in the society, but there is also a barrier that we find in running as a triathlete, where the mechanics from cycling to running, they affect the run a lot. What is why this is this happening? To explain to everybody what's happening from the bike to the run, how the body is effectively affected in this transition.
Well, first, I think there are many issues that the bike gonna impact the run. So one thing is how good is the technique of the runner before cycling, and then you're gonna reduce the impact of the bike on your run. So if you have a very good skills and you know what kind of movements you should be doing in the run, most probably that bike will impact less on the run. So the better you are running, the less you're gonna feel the impact of the bike. That's one point. So people should not think like, okay, so if you're saying that it impacts a lot, let me just not even focus on technique, and run more. That's not how we should think, because the better and more efficient you move in any sport, the less the previous sport gonna impact, right? So if the same thing as the mindset of swimming, oh, I'm not a good swimmer, why am I gonna waste my time here? It's because the better you swim, the less energy you spend in the water, and then on the bike you have more energy, right?
Yeah.
One important thing for me that I feel that the impact of the bike in the run is the shortening of the hip flexor, which is a very important muscle. So mainly the connection between your hips and your quads. That muscle on the bike, it keeps shorter than should be. And I think one problem that I see many runners when they come out of the bike, they come in a very short body position. Mainly what's gonna cause is a motion of a heel stride, because they are quite seated and they cannot engage the right muscles, so posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, lower back stability. But that's my point of view, and you see most of the triathletes getting out of the bike with a short stride at the beginning, very short, quite low position, and when they look at the watch, what happened to them is they panic, right? So they are slower, and they overstride to compensate that moment. And when they overstride in a short hip flexor position, they overstride in a heel stride, and that's where the quads gonna overwork.
And it also opens you up to injuries for those muscles. That's where I think the athletes tend to rely on their strength when they're on the bike, and that's where we focus on the power meters and what power output they have. But when it comes to the run, I think initially, until you can get into your groove of the running, you just need to focus on your cadence and not worry too much about your stride length until you can get into it, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel sometimes this one happens much more with the intermediate advanced athletes that, they look at the pace, it's not the pace they've been training for. And now, as you said, they panic and now they start overstriding, and this is when, my hamstring, my calf, my everything, like you start having pain, now you're walking, and the race is done. This is part of the transition workouts, these pre-workouts that we do, where we focus on making the athlete understand that the mechanics is changing from bike to run. And if you have been efficient and you have been using the right as well on the bike technique, then now you have the energy and you have the ability to run properly. I mean, in the end, it's kind of a bucket of energy. If you waste it in the swim, you waste it in the run, in the cycling. Exactly. Then when you go into the run, you don't have that kind of energy, and then you start doing all the mistakes.
And that's the thing. It's making it clear to any beginner that comes into the sport, or even experienced athletes that sometimes tend to forget it, is the connection between the three sports. And if you don't focus correctly on the bike, it will cost you. It will cost you on the run, and vice versa. The same with the swim. And we often say to some of our beginner swimmers, or those that, let's just say, swimming isn't their strong point, their main priority in the swim portion of the event is to get out and be as fresh as possible for the run. Because someone who's having real issues with their technique in swimming, if they really try and push in the swim, they're going to waste a lot of energy, and it's going to catch up with them on the bike. So trying to focus on the economy of all three sports will help in the long run.
Let's take 30 seconds break. We talked about economy. We're going to talk again about this. 30 seconds break.
Nice.
Your cycling experience is based on two main pillars: a scientific power-based system and music. The power-based system allows us to measure the performance of each member in the class, and the music and the rhythm work as a trigger to the state of flow.
Good.
Okay, back again, talking about the art of running. we talked about economy in the run, but economy effectively in the three disciplines that they lead you to the run. What does it mean, economy?
Yeah. Here's another thing that I think it's very important for us to talk about. While you don't have 6 million theories of how to bike, and you don't have 3 million theories of how to swim, for the other side, in running, everybody become a master of running technique, because it's so natural, it's so easy to kind of get into that study more, because cycling looks so natural. You should sit down the bike, pedal, and that's it. And people don't really get into the technique of cycling. Swimming, from the other side, it's a little bit more complicated, so few people actually analyze swimming and create their own way of swimming. So you have many schools of swimming, different countries, different people, different theories. But running, the information out there is very wide, and you can have books and books of theories of running, which for one side makes the beginner athlete quite lost in what he should be following, and you have different books, different theories. If you Google, they say heel stride is okay, and then midfoot is okay, and then you should try forefoot. So people get
barefoot,
yeah.
Run in the sand, don't run uphill, run downhill, So if you that's also another problem, that people sometimes they get into this loop of learning, and at some point they just give up and they just want to run because actually they want to enjoy running, and if you get too much into the learning process without enjoying, what happens is at some point you get bored and you stop, because at the end of the day, people do triathlon and running because they want to have fun and they want to get out of whatever is, they want have a different moment than working and their life. So if they are not enjoying anymore the sport that they are doing, what's the point to do, right?
So what you are saying is that running is very individual, I guess. And also as a coach, as an athlete, you look at other runners and with your own eyes, and you come up with your own theory that not always is applicable to all the athletes that you have around. So I believe that a good coach is not only giving you one exercise, but can give you different exercises, different drills, so that the athlete can exploit a little bit more his weaknesses and see which one is working for him. And maybe there are some drills that they don't work for him because the structure is completely different. So
or they're not in the right moment for that drill, right?
Okay, yeah. They need to develop
something else.
It depends what the athlete is doing, and I think because we're all, it's not like coaching kids where you kind of have a relatively in blank canvas to start from. Adults bring their own perceptions of how things should be. They bring with them their own muscle imbalances that they've accumulated over time, so they can't quite move their body the same way. It's the same, and again, it's similar for swimming. A drill that would help you might not help you, because if I give you, say, the single arm drill to stop you crossing your arm over, if that's not an issue for you, then that drill is going to be useless for you. So it's just enhancing something else. Or if it's a drill, if you're trying to get someone to, get off their toes, if you give them a drill that just focuses on that aspect because you're trying to get a heel striker to move forward, that's not going to work for them. So the drills can't be they're not a one size fits all. It depends where they're at and where you're trying to get them. And some drills would work for this person, and you wouldn't want that person to be using them at all.
Yeah, and then I think also on terms of learning process and drills, there is there's a need of a certain level of motor coordination to apply different movements, and this you can't expect to have adults with the same level of motor coordination. Even kids, you don't,
No.
right? So you have the very talented people that they have a very strong background, they've been practicing sports the whole life, they've been active, they have experienced millions of exercise. But then you have the other side, the guys that they decide to start to run very late in their life. You know, they are not so active, they've been most of the time wondering to do things, but they never started. So their body awareness is probably like 50 to 70% less than the other guy. When you teach those movements, you have a huge gap of understanding how the body is moving. The body in their head, they are doing what they've been told to do, but the way they express the movement, there is a huge gap there, right? And you can see that it's not because he didn't understand the movement. He understood the movement, but his
Can't put it
motor
together.
connection is different. So when I apply what I'm thinking, my muscles, they cannot understand how to move that way. And especially if you ask for speed or power, then it gets worse, because I'm learning. I shouldn't be doing anything fast or powerful when I'm learning. And I think that's a very careful moment here, because you can really create a big frustration in somebody when you try to teach something requesting wrong, let's say, wrong tasks. And as a coach, we should be more careful, I think, on not frustrate clients or athletes, because then you do the other side. You make them stop, probably.
I think it's just finding the right balance between building their technique and their efficiency, and actually letting them get on with working on their fitness and feeling as if they're improving. I find those that particularly have an issue with translating what they think they're supposed to do to actually going on and doing it, videoing them and then showing them. They might think this is what I'm doing, and then you say, no, actually this is what you're doing. They're able to relate that more, and then they can fix certain problems. But also is for the coach and the athlete together to find out, say if you have to do kind of interval work or whatever, what's the magic number for them that, so instead of giving them, 1K repeats on the run, if their technique and their form falls apart after 400 meters, then don't give them anything above 400 meters, and just work with the 400 meters and the rest recovery until they can then get to, because what's the point in giving them a 1K when the last 600, it's just going to be them running the same way they were running before, and then gradually they will get more quality workout by doing 10 400s than by doing four 1Ks, so to speak.
Yeah, this brings a good topic, because in reality then running is much more tailored to the client, to the athlete. I mean, at this point, like you're saying, I cannot give all the athletes the same workout. I need to analyze their background, and I'm gonna tell you a story about this, and then everything must be tailored step by step for that athlete, so that a running plan must take into consideration that, okay, where is this guy coming from? Okay, and then so these are the mistakes he's doing. Now, what he has to do, he doesn't have to do what the other guys are doing, as you said, probably 1 400. When I was a kid, I was swimming. Okay,
Yeah.
You cannot say, but I was a good swimmer, pretty strong. And when I was 12, changed school, went to physical education, and the teachers like, okay, I could do 200 crunches, I could do 200 push-ups. When it comes to running, it was like, nope. And my mom, she was angry. Said, how comes? Like he's a good swimmer. But my background was like, we were never running at the time. So, I started playing basketball, tennis, and then finally I unlocked
Started
the
to come together.
level 2 of running. So then finally I was able to run. But until that point, for me, running was like, chasing the dog in
Frustration,
the garden. That was it, So I wasn't focusing too much. So, analyze background, see where this guy is, and then, tailor those drills, tailor those plans for exactly what he needs. Because as we said, it's individual. Like maybe as a coach, I'm analyzing this one in a way, you can analyze in a different way, but still, it's for his benefit, it's for his economy, it's for his abilities.
And here comes a little bit of the strength and mobility work that they play a huge whole on the whole process of learning, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you don't have the right mobility in the right joints and the connections of your body, and you don't have the right strength, it doesn't matter how much you know how to move, because you're gonna fall apart at some point, or you're gonna be overworking certain muscles. And also it comes to the point of, okay, is this person ready to learn a certain drill, or we have to work something else before you go to the learning process of running, and I don't see that people has the right patience to develop that. I think they focus, for example, very, very simple one. We know that if you want to teach a certain drill in swimming, it's going to require some certain level of mobility of your shoulder and upper back. Melina knows that. Because the person going to do wrong. It doesn't matter how much you tell them. Even the video is not going to help, because they're going to look and like, oh my God, okay, now I know what to do. But the body itself won't let them. Yeah. It's going to stop them. And I think that's come back to what I said from the beginning. Some athletes, clients, they gain more doing strength and mobility at a certain phase of their preparation than repeating movements outside. Unfortunately, triathlon and endurance sports, people don't have this mindset. So they think that the gym, they're going to build muscles, they're going to get heavier, and they cannot move anymore. That's how they think. But because this is a concept of gym from 80s, right? So a lot of machines, everybody bodybuilder, you need to have huge muscles. And the functional training, it's the opposite of that, is teaching your body how to move again. So work on the gait cycle, for example, doing a lunge. This is a classic example that people, when they lunge, so they go down and they fall apart when they go down. The knee, the hip flexor short, the core, lower back imbalance, lean forward in the chest. Imagine now if you're gonna ask this person to run 10 kilometers.
Let's take 30 seconds break. We come back on this topic in 30 seconds.
Our assault class is designed to make you sweat, burn fat, and increase endurance, using a science-based method of high-intensity interval training focusing on short intervals. Our SCOP class is built around strength and conditioning, using weight training and functional equipment to improve health and build lean muscle. Both classes are heart rate zone based to ensure you're working within the right energy system, metabolic state, and to maximize results through instant feedback about your output. Here at BR, our coaching makes all the difference. We take a coaching approach to help you optimize and improve your workout and prevent injuries.
Welcome back to Chat with Beer Coaches, our third episode video podcast. So you can follow us on the YouTube channel. And so we revealed a little bit of the aspects that we are gonna include in BR Performance Studio running club and running plan. And you were talking about strength. So how does it work? What is the strength for triathletes? I mean, this is a big thing. In the past it was like eat in the gym and go there and do weights. You were talking, we're using a word, functional. What does it mean?
I think it's going back to the basic movement patterns that the human beings they should be doing, and we again got lost at a certain point of our lives, and it happens to everyone. You know, you cannot avoid that to happen because sitting in a chair since you were 10 years old until you go to university, and then you sit again on the chair from university to start to work, and then you sit in a chair on your office, and then you go home. What do? You basically sit in a sofa and talk to your friends and watch TV, and then you go. So there is a huge disconnection of being a natural human being in terms of movement, which create a lot of psychological issues. We know depression, lack of movement, you don't stimulate the right hormones. So functional, it's basically work movements that we should be doing anyways. So push, pull, rotations, gait cycle, hinge. So all of those movements, hinge is a big issue for most of the people. They don't understand the movement of the hip and the pelvis, right? So people, they know how to push, to pull, and then they have that issue of how do I move my pelvis and my hip in a certain way, because the sitting position just get your lower back stability very, very lazy. You know, you become a very lazy person in terms of movement. It's so hard to ask somebody that works in an office for a long time in their life. It's so hard to ask them to do tasks, simple tasks. They just don't like. You know, it's like, oh my God, I need to do this. I need to pick it up that thing. Because those muscles, they are sleeping, and you need to wake them up, right?
Okay, I'm gonna have crossfade here.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just saying hello to thinking of.
What do you think?
I think strength is usually the one thing that gets that falls by the wayside. Triathletes think they just need to swim, bike, run. As coaches, we add their strength in and their mobility. But if something has to go 1 week, I'd say 9 times out of 10, what's going to go? It's that. That's what they're gonna forget, or just say, well, I haven't got time for that. I'm just going to get on with swimming, biking, and running. So there's a task, I think, for all the coaches to. We just need to kind of educate them on the importance of why you're doing this, and you know, bringing it back to running. This isn't just about running. You can get runners that come into the sport that are able to, you know, or the all-rounder athlete that can do all three, but actually they're not very good at running off the bike. And trying to get that across to them. Just because you're a good runner doesn't mean you're going to be a good runner in a triathlon. It's something different. Yeah. And that's where strength training does come into its own, to help with that transition and to manage injuries, or the possibility of injuries, because you can hide muscle imbalances in the swim, you can hide them on the bike because the bike's carrying you. Usually they'll all come. That's why we all tend to get most of the injuries tend to be for running. You'll see more athletes getting told to stay off running for a week, or because something isn't quite working properly. So it's a case of educating
that's
them.
When they say, okay, I'm gonna do my strength.
And that's when you're like, but actually you can't do it right now. It's a big task for us.
And here is very, very important, because then I think it's come to the technical point of the force production of running, the way they move running. And being a good runner, not cycling, allows you to maybe be able to produce running speed through pushing the ground. Like you push the floor and your toes come off as you are pushing the ground. That's really not very efficient, right? We know that, and it's not new for anyone. It's everywhere, the information. So if you push off too much, not cycling before, you might have enough energy to run. The problem is cycling requires you a lot of pushing and pulling, right? So you need to push the pedal down and push, using most probably a lot of the muscles that you're gonna be also pushing the floor if you run with that style. And then it falls apart at some point and people cramp, they wall, the pace just cannot be sustainable because there is a limitation of energy. You don't have enough glycogen in your quads to keep pushing the floor. Let's say you're doing an ITK bike on a half Ironman. So you are seated on the bike, whatever is the time. Let's say you are really efficient athlete and strong on the bike. Even if you do 2 hours 15 minutes in an ITK, it's a fast bike, right? If he push 2 hours 15 minutes those pedals and then he goes for a 21 kilometers running, it's another at least 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. So I'm already talking about 3 hours and 45 minutes of the same muscle literally working all the time. It's not sustainable.
With a disadvantage already with this technique. So what's the drill there? I mean, like, you're saying that pushing off the ground. What's the drill that we are talking about?
Can you tell the secret here, or you want to?
Okay, no, that is gonna be in.
Or they need to come and visit us.
Yes, yes. We will tell later.
Nicely done.
But this is another topic that a lot of athletes ask. You know, like we look into Training Peaks, we look into their workouts, and we have a look at cadence. And they ask, what was my cadence? Was it good? What should be my cadence? You know, what is it? Is there a specific number? Is there a number that works for everybody? Is there a...
Oh, okay. No, I don't think there is. It doesn't apply in swimming. I don't think it applies in cycling either. So I don't think it applies to running. There is no one size fits all. None of us are the same. We don't move the same way. So you kind of have to find, and that comes down a lot to, it's a combination of the athlete and the coach working together to find out where your sweet spot is.
You perform better.
Yeah. For example, if I think of myself with my athlete hat on and not as a coach, for me to have a really high cadence on the bike, I actually lose power, and it drops. So my sort of happy place in terms of cadence sits about 75 RPM. If I go any higher, I start to lose power on the bike, and I really suffer on the run, because to blame my children for once, my core doesn't work as well since giving birth, so I actually rely on my hip flexors and all other muscles around there for my core to engage. So if my hip flexors work overtime on the bike, I will pay for it on the run. So I think it's down to the coach and the athlete to find where that sweet spot or that happy place sits.
We need to remember that we have a certain type of muscle fibers. So we have the slow, the fast, and the really fast. And people, they have different genetics. So according to your muscle fiber, the research on cycling is there. You can search. According to the number or percentage of muscle fibers and the type of muscle fibers you have on your lower muscles, so glutes, quads, hamstrings, calves, you're gonna have a certain cadence that you're gonna feel better. If you have faster fibers, you're most probably gonna be okay with a higher cadence, because you're gonna be able to remove the lactate and produce glycogen easier, right? So the oxygen is gonna be moving very easy up and down lungs, legs. But if you are a slower, let's say you have this lower muscle fiber on the lower legs, in a higher number, you're gonna really hate the high cadence. You're gonna be a disaster. Just because genetically you don't have enough muscles and type of muscles to produce that power,
accommodate that,
right? It's not going to work. It's physically not going to work. And you can see that cyclists, they are either working in a uphill, they are good in uphill, or they are good in time trial, or they are good in because genetically they feel better for many reasons. Even the guy who born in Colombia cycling every day there, because he built that kind of muscle fiber, and he's more efficient on that. That's big. That's why, because you don't have a guy that is good in everything. You have like 3 or 4 of them in the world, right? Swimming is the same.
Yeah.
If you swim long distance, you don't swim short distance.
No,
Running track is the same.
Yeah.
You either run 100 meters or you run longer. For them, 800 meters is very long.
I think the issue is is having 3 sports that you could potentially be very different across all 3. You might cycle slightly differently to how you run.
Yes.
So it's being able to, yes, we see triathlon as one sport, but still we do need to kind of attack all 3 disciplines just from that aspect. Look at running as it's just running, and then bring it in as, okay, it's running off the bike. And this is the other issue, that it actually research has shown that it's hardwired. It's not, training can help up to a point. You could be a good runner, but you might not be able to run off the bike well. So how the bike affects your running is to an extent hardwired. They got a bunch of elite triathletes together and elite cyclists, and they got them to ride, and then they got them to run, and looked at their neuromuscular physiology, and actually it's, to an extent, it's hardwired who's going to be okay to run off the bike well. You can try and make the gap between running standalone and running off the bike closer, and you do that by doing as many brick sessions as you can, or always having, even if it's a 10-minute run off the bike, so you know, if I'm cycling, I haven't finished, there's still a bike to do, there's still a run to do. But to an extent, it's down to, like Joao was saying, down to your genetics.
You're working on weaknesses there, so you identify which one is the weakest, and you're gonna work on it. What you're saying probably is that you're not gonna be able to overcome your, body structure.
So you
can work on it and then lead towards a better athlete in their specialty. But
I think it's more about, we're not saying there's a ceiling effect that, you've got more this type of fiber, so actually there's no point trying type thing.
No, it's not that.
It's more, you need to work with what you've got, and to do that you need to be you need to be aware of. So to be able to work with what you got, you need to know what you've got in the first place, and how your body moves.
Exactly. So the point is, if I am more comfortable with a certain cadence, most probably is because, let's say, a lower average cadence bike or run, it's because most probably I tend to have to produce speed through the power, not through the frequency of movement, right? So what happened is, if I produce my power on the bike through lower cadence, and I do the same on the run, most probably gonna have a big issue here. So I'm gonna have to learn how to produce speed, having a little bit of a higher cadence on the run, because the power output against the floor, if I keep pushing, I will be exhausting my muscles. And we can see that Lionel Sanders, in the last race that everybody's talking, he changed the cadence when Sam came close to him. What he was doing was, he did not overstride. He was heel stride for the whole run, and did not stop him to be fast. Just to be clear, I don't agree with the heel stride. I think there is another way, more efficient. But anyways, that guy is super powerful. We know that. Works for him. So he changed the cadence. I think the biggest change he did in his run, was to work on cadence. So he did not stop to overstride. Like before.
Get faster,
Before, the way he was trying to get more speed was to overstriding, and that's we know that
That won't last.
it will not
Yeah,
last.
won't last.
I think you both guys are talking about what Joe Friel talks about economy. He says, okay, there is endurance, there is speed, and it's triangle, and then there is this economy. It doesn't give guidelines on numbers because, as you said, it's individual. So everybody is his own way to reach the best performance and the best economy. So it's about the beauty of triathlon journey. Okay.
This is one of the blocks of coaching system known for more than 200 years. It's individualization. You cannot do one science or one approach to 10 different people. Unfortunately, it would be so easy for us as a coach. We'd have
the economy for the business.
That's why the online program, the one that you can buy anywhere, any platform online, it's gonna work until you don't need to ask something to someone, because at that point, if you need to know how this is gonna work for you as an athlete, you don't have somebody to talk. I think the beauty of the coaching and to have somebody to actually try to help you to go somewhere is to say, all right, I have this problem here, how can we fix together? Yeah. Because if the athlete expects everything from the coach, it's a problem. If the coach is the only one providing the entire book of information, not giving space for the athlete to think about, it's another problem. That's another problem, because you also don't give the space for the person to learn. You deliver so much all the time that we cannot, you can't even process the first information.
But ultimately we need them, especially with how coaching is these days. The reality is we don't actually physically coach them, say on pool side or on track side. We see them maybe a few times a week, but the reality is for most age groupers, if you are coached, you're kind of training by yourself or maybe in a group. So we need the athlete to give us that feedback. And it's all great for them to synchronize their watch and all their gadgets with Training Peaks and all the numbers go in, but the numbers only give us one snapshot of what's happened. There's another little box on Training Peaks where they can put comments in.
And it's for them, not for us, huh?
It works both ways. So they can reflect.
It's created for the athletes.
Yeah, they can reflect on what's happened. So it gives them a chance to actually think about what they just did and what kind of those numbers mean. But it also gives us a chance, because the numbers might show me actually, wow, they had a really good session, but in reality they spent the entire session and they were struggling and they were having other issues. And you need both to get a full picture, both for us but also for them to learn to become a little bit more critical about what they're doing and understanding why they're doing what they're doing.
That's why at BR we have coaches and athletes with capital C, capital A, because the feedback is what we base our philosophy. 30 seconds break and then we come back for the conclusions.
Nice.
When a person is stressed and they're trying to work on healthier habits, and that's what happens to most of us, is we try to work on healthier habits, but we have certain internal stressors that prevent us from developing those good habits. So we get stressed, and then we stop. So my job is to intervene right at the point where they start and where they stop, so they can continue. So I'm giving them the power and the tools to continue to build these healthy habits long term.
Okay, welcome back for the conclusions of this third episode of our video podcast. The discussion went on, I think, around this journey of triathlon, which is a journey of many things, swim, bike, and run, but there is the journey of strength, trying to build this awareness that strength is crucial. It's crucial not to get injured, but it's crucial also to to address your weaknesses, especially because we were talking about different fibers and individual abilities where the strength effectively can help to address these weaknesses. And we are launching this running program effectively because with the years of experience, it's something that always comes back from the athletes, that they don't want to improve run. For some reason, it's something like they don't want to improve run because they still feel like, but I can run, this is easy, I can go for a run.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's something that needs to be addressed to have better athletes.
I think also the combination of we always have to remember what kind of athletes / clients we have in our hands. To don't try to give a lot of technical information that's gonna end up getting them lost and not learning something. Not limiting their learning, but also respecting their journey into the process of sports. More than performance, more than triathlon. They want to be healthy, they want to have a nice lifestyle, they want a change in their lives. That's why they're looking for, that's why we do that. And then the performance is gonna come with the years of training and also the time. If you have more time, you can perform better because performance requires time. If we don't allow them to also enjoy that process, again, I feel that there is a point that they just, or people in overall, they get, I don't know, bored, but they get frustrated, because the end, at some point you want to have the freedom to enjoy the sport that you're trying. And then there is another thing that is also important to maybe finish my part, which is the frame of mistakes. So this is very well known in strength training as well. So the frame of mistakes is how those mistakes that this person is doing at this time of their learning, are they going to hurt this person? If they are going to hurt, you need to correct. If they're not going to hurt, you need to let that person live that journey of learning without stop all the time. Because they stop all the time, it's where you get them frustrated to learn more. You cannot even, so the space that we are trying to give at BR, it's a space of a learning process, right? We see the mistakes, we talk about, we tell them, oh, you are you are heel stride again, you are overstriding, you are landing and your right knee is turning in, you are too seated, or you're not moving your upper body naturally, you're not leaning forward, all of the technical aspects, okay? But it doesn't mean I'm gonna stop them every single step.
Over controlling.
Yeah.
Over controlling.
Yeah.
No, it's just finding the right balance of encouraging them, giving them the information they need. And like you say, just letting them figure it out to an extent for themselves. Because if we're constantly there saying, do this, fix this, do that, we're taking the thought process out of it completely.
Guys, was a pleasure. Okay, great talk about the art of running. Stay tuned for summer news because we have a lot of things boiling in house, and we will announce it pretty soon. Okay, so we'll see you on the next episode. If you have any question, just use Instagram or use our email address. You have all the contacts.
Perfect.
Thank you.
See you next week, guys.